Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Yakkety Yak with James and Zach. I'm Zach.
And I'm Arnim Zola. Hello.
I actually don't know anything about Arnim Zola. I can't even make a joke.
It's
Um,
probably not very nice, I should say.
we are back to Yakkety Yak about the newest set to come out. Well, for at least one person, the Avengers Infinity campaign box. Spoiled by Gaming with Sidekicks, and the pictures are courtesy of DM Armada, so thank you very much for that. And at least one person has already gotten it in the mail, but the actual release date is August 1st.
That's in the US, obviously.
In the U.S., yes. There isn't actually a date listed for anywhere else in the world, is there?
Apparently, there's a 6 to 8 week delay.
Oh, jeez. Well, eventually out everywhere else as well. And so we thought we'd just take a quick look. And it is actually fairly short. There's only, 24 characters? Something like that? Or cards?
Far from that many good cards.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just going to look very quickly at the cards that we think are going to have some impact in kind of the competitive scene. We're not going to go over all of them individually, but there are other sources like DM Armada's video and Chris and Rob's video, which I'll link in the description if you want to look at more detail at all of them. Starting off with the Arnim Sola, except we don't think that any of them are particularly helpful.
No, he's a 2-cost bolt which doesn't stop Overcrush in any of his forms.
Yeah, I thought this was going to stop Overcrush because you remove him from combat, but then James pointed out that like if you capture something like Ultron, then you get to deal your Overcrush damage, so it wouldn't actually prevent Overcrush after all. So anyway, we're going to skip him and move on to the Avengers ID card. They're all kind of interesting, though, aren't they?
Yeah. Always like an affiliation global, and they're the sort of Avengers version of the X-Men stuff that we had in XFC. It's all good.
Yeah, I think my favorite one is probably making it official. Your Avenger character dice get +2/+2 until end of turn. Man, getting a couple of those out at the same time can be pretty effective, especially when you can give your own characters the Avenger affiliation.
Right.
And if only you could give your opponent's characters this affiliation. There's so many shenanigans you could pull off, but unfortunately it says in your reserve pool or field zone, which I'm going to take to mean your field zone.
That is a pity.
Yeah, too many good combos there. Okay, those are all pretty interesting, but I think that's probably my favorite. You also get to prep a die from your bag, which I was forgetting about, which is also pretty helpful too. And so pretty interesting little action there. Possibly like a mini team up if you can get a bunch of Avengers out.
Cool. Yeah, we like that. All right.
All right, Black Panther.
Oh, you like him, don't you?
Right. +1/+1 for each opposing active villain character. And then you use Danger Room, and then all of your opponent's characters are villains, and then he gets huge buff, and he's already got 4, 5, or 8 attack. 8 attack at level 3.
It's the same as the AVX dice, I think.
It's this Uncanny X-Men die.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Dice expert.
I used to use the there was a Black Panther in Uncanny X-Men that got +2 attack when he attacked alone, and so I had this team built around making him unblockable and then getting 10 damage through at the same time. But if you can give him Overcrush, and he is a fist, so it's easy to give him Overcrush, I think you can do some cool stuff with that. And the other one cannot be blocked by villain character dice or sidekick character dice, which also means that you can use 3 Danger Room, and then they can't block him at all, and he's got 4, 5, or 8 attack.
Hello, Kate Bishop.
Yeah. Moving on to Black Widow.
Good global, Taunt global, Return of the Taunt. That's the only one we have in modern.
Totally.
Yeah. That's a pain in the arse, but it's a good thing.
Yeah, that'll probably be the return of Kate Bishop global right there. Yeah, which one do you like the most?
There was a couple, wasn't there? This one was okay, I thought. Deal 1 damage, a little bit of chip damage, and I think you liked one of the other ones, right?
Yeah, the last one, when fielded, your other character dice get +1 attack. Especially if you can do it multiple times in a turn, that's pretty good. And it's an Avengers. You combo it with the Avengers ID card.
Yep, that could get pretty big, pretty quick.
I mean, yeah, there was a Howard Stark that you had to sacrifice at the beginning of your turn to give everything +2 attack. This seems way easier to pull off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, 2 cost, good fielding. Yeah, she's all right.
Yeah, I can see that. Captain America. I don't think we like any of Captain Americas.
Just it's not so much flying sidekicks as, I don't know, staggering sidekicks.
Yeah, your wall of sidekicks. Kind of interesting that you can prep a die whenever a sidekick character you control is KO'd, because it's pretty easy to KO your own sidekicks. But it seems like a weird way to ramp. And you give him a +1/+1 I don't really if I really see it, but I think it's probably the
Cap,
most interesting.
Cap has had better cards, I think.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Let's move on.
Doctor Strange has a tune. Ben
He's
and Steven were trying very hard to convince us of the potency of this Doctor Strange. And it sounds like that it did before, right? Doctor Strange is active when an action die is used to use a copy of its effect. You may choose new targets for the copy. And my first thought was Lady Bullseye, or not Lady Deadpool from Deadpool set. They're super rare. Lets you double up an action already, and she's only a 5 cost. But this one says when an action die is used, not when you use one. So you get to.
It's like a combination of super rare Red Dragon and one of the Mr. Mixie Spittles, I think.
Yeah. So you get to copy your opponent's action, and that I think could be pretty interesting. Of course, it does rely on your opponent using action dice.
And he costs 7. I'm always a bit put off by
yeah.
He's got great stats though.
Great stats. And the other ones, the other Doctor Stranges have a tune. If this one had a tune that you could trigger whenever your opponent used an action, that would be pretty good. But unfortunately, he does not. Yeah, I'd love to play around with it, but I don't know how good it's actually going to end up being.
Dormammu, I'm just wondering which card is the best one to make a comment about the shonky artwork in this set. I don't. It's just low quality. It's like they've picked the worst possible. Like every card which has another version, the other artwork is just better.
Oh, I mean, some of them are okay, but this Dormammu, it's funny because it looks a lot like the promo that they just came out with at Origins, but like slightly off somehow.
Just bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This one was really interesting because it's like 2 Oracle abilities combined together, but then I realized that it's double-sided. So character dice cost 1 more to field, and global abilities cost 1 more to use for both you and your opponent. So you're going to pay 7 to hurt yourself.
There's an Enchantress which does that to your opponent for 6, doesn't it?
I think it's 2 different Oracle abilities, but
no, Enchantress combines 2 Oracles.
Yeah,
6,
I think it's globals and action dice or something. I don't know if it's character dice cost 1 more to field, but
oh right, yeah, you're right.
But yeah, it's double-sided for 7. It just feels like why would you reach that far to hurt yourself? Gamora.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
It's all right.
You might play it, but you know it's not meta shaking, is it?
Yeah.
It's all right. The abilities are both always good, but
yeah. If you had a way to buff her attack, I think her going unblocked would be more meaningful.
Yeah. That's the power gem which has deadly, and Gamora can only be buffed by 2 or more character dice. I don't even know what the other ones
say. This one cannot be blocked by lower level character dice.
Yeah. Okay. And the other one?
The other one, if you control a non-Gamora Guardian, KO target level 1 character die.
Yeah, okay.
It seems like a lot of, like, you have to control another Guardian, and you only get to KO level 1. You know, it's like removal, but kind of. They're like, we're gonna give you removal, and then we'll back off, and we'll make it so you have all these contingencies you have to account for.
Yeah, there's a lot of conditions. Yeah. Okay, let's move on.
Hulk, just
skip through.
I know. Not only did they not use the 1/1/1 fielding cost from the Guardians Hulk, they went back to the old Age of Ultron Hulk die, but none of the abilities are particularly. And this was probably the best ability, and it's just KO all opposing level 1 character dice. So, you know, you get rid of all the sidekicks, but it doesn't even have Overcrush to take advantage of it. So
you can get an action die which does that for 4. What would you?
Exactly. Yeah. If he had Overcrush in addition to that, I'd probably pay 7 for him. But yeah. Okay. Iron Man. A lot of life gain in the Iron Man. It's a really good defensive card. I like the idea of gaining life. Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I just like the idea of gaining life. This one, you know, you target with a global bit on your turn, you gain a life. Wait till your opponent's turn, target him again, you get another life.
Good subtitle, Ponderous Footsteps. That's nice.
Yeah. If there was a way that you could, what I really wish is that like you could get either past 20, or that if you were at 20 and you gained life, there was some way of having that make damage to your opponent. This would be my first pick, but I'm not seeing it.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay.
Loki.
It seems like that should have some potential, but yeah, it's beyond my little mind, I think. When fielded, choose an affiliation other than villain, replacing all previous choices. Your opponent can pay 2 life to prevent this effect. While Loki is active, ignore the text, including global abilities, on all cards of that affiliation. So if your opponent has an affiliated team, then you can basically force them to pay 2 life each turn, probably. But if they don't, what use is it? And it
Yeah.
can't be used on villains.
And these days, all the good control is villains, right? So even if they had, well, I mean, I guess these days a lot of good control, like Blob and Scarlet Witch, was Brotherhood of Mutants. So I guess you could use that, but they're just going to pay the 2 life to prevent the effect.
And it's when fielded.
Yeah. So when fielded, your opponent loses 2 life, which, to be fair, is not the worst ability.
No, but still, it's not the best either. It's just okay.
And with 5, 7, or 8 defense, you're going to have to find a way to get it out of the field yourself because he's not going to come out of the field naturally.
No. I like Loki's helmet.
Well, there it is on a die.
Let's move on. If you're complimenting Loki's helmet and the subtitles of cards, you know there's something quite not quite right.
Red Skull. When an opposing character dies KO'd, Red Skull gets +1/+1. There are a few ways you can KO your opponent's entire board at once, and in that case, he would be pretty big and unblocked. That's kind of interesting.
Staff, Jubilee, and Red Skull combo.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the bigger field they have, the more dangerous he's going to get when you clear the whole field, right? So
I don't know who's going to field something with a bloody fielding cost of 3. It's just like there's a wasp, isn't there? Like a wasp which gets the +1 attack, +1 defense for doing something else, not for doing the same thing. I don't use that. But...
It's funny. It's like back in the day, there were a lot of 1, 2, 3 fieldings, and they've been moving away from it because they're using old dice for everything in the set. We're back to the old 1, 2, 3 fielding costs for a lot of these. Yeah, you know, if it felt like they were in a rush to do this set and they hadn't had a pause of how many months is it for? Right.
Half a year by the time it gets to the UK, you might sort of forgive it. Like they've sort of done it in a rush and they've reused old dice and they've put some like rubbish abilities on cards, but they've had ages. I mean, I know they've had issues. Okay, fair enough, but they've had a long time to think about it.
Well, they probably didn't redevelop any of the cards in between its first. Yeah, so I don't think they were going back and tinkering with stuff. But yeah, it does feel a little. I mean, a little weird how many of these dice are reused, which has been a lot recently. But because there's only 16 characters or something in the whole set, it just feels like there's like barely anything new in it.
I'm very much looking forward to what's it called, 40k.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, let's back to the subject.
We were excited about this one at first. You KO an opposing character, and they choose whether they lose a life or you gain a life. But if you get to 20, they're just always going to pick that you gain a life, and then nothing happens, right? So
yeah, I totally missed that its controller chooses one, so it stops it being really very good, doesn't it?
Yeah, they're never going to choose to lose a life when they could. I mean, unless they think they're going to kill you next turn, in which case you lost anyway. So
yeah. Okay,
yeah. Opposing character fielded for free, which is, with the 1, 2, 3 fielding, you want to get rid of it. So I could see it being used by people who pick up the box for the first time and playing with it, but no.
Star-Lord, okay.
The only thing I think we thought of for this one was if you control a non-Star-Lord Guardian character, prevent all damage to Star-Lord, which would mean that they couldn't get Overcrush damage through Star-Lord.
Is this good artwork? I ask you. I mean, is it just the image that just makes it doesn't do it?
I mean, yeah, it is a video capture off of a video, so
yeah, but still,
I kind of like the idea of the holographic ship behind him.
Yeah. Okay, next.
Anyway, so yeah, can't be breath weaponed because it prevent all damage. Kind of interesting. Of course, then Anyway, Thor. I think probably the one that'll see the most. Is this global here?
1,000 Island global, limited to once per turn. 1,000 Island dressing. 1,000 Dragon, I think.
1,000 Dragon, yeah. It's Ring of Winter, but for actions. But as James pointed out, that already existed on 1,000 Dragon. Yeah, that'll definitely, you'll see that come up, I think, from time to time.
What was the one before? Because that was kind of interesting, wasn't
it? Deal 1 damage to every character die in the field zone.
Yeah.
So yours and your opponent's. But as we mentioned before, maybe there's ways where you have staff or something, and that KOs all of your opponent's characters, or you have Hulk in the field, and then all of yours deal damage to your opponent. But that's having 2 6 costs out.
In a mediocre set, that's an all right card, to my mind.
Yeah,
anyway.
I mean, if you were to draft with this set, that would totally be a pickup that you could make.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Draft is different, but since they're not designing it for draft, might as well not.
Vision, I thought, was also a remake because the die looks really similar, but I think they've upped the defense quite significantly.
No, I think that's the same as the AVX Vision dice.
Oh, I don't think I played with that one. I think I played with the Age of Ultron one. And
I'm
yeah,
going to check that while you're talking.
I mean, they've got these sort of defensive-minded abilities, but I mean, if they're trying to attract, brand new players to the game, I could see where you'd want a character with 7 defense that can block 2 characters, and you're going to wall up. But I don't think it's going to encourage you to keep playing the game when your game lasts for an hour and a half because nobody can get any damage through. So,
I stand corrected. It's UXM.
UXM, okay.
As was that Iron Man previously. I get a bit mixed up about because a few of the people from UXM I never got dice for, and that was one.
Oh yeah. Wasp. This one I think made a big splash when it was spoiled early by WizKids.
This is pretty cool. I mean,
yeah.
this is genuinely quite good.
So a tune starting to, well, a couple other characters in the set had a tune already, but this is the first time I think it showed up outside of Tomb of Annihilation. And when you use a tune, Wasp gets +1/+1 until end of turn. If you have more than one attune character out, then using one action gives her more than one buff, which is pretty cool.
That's quite all right.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to complain about there. That's right.
Yeah, if one of your actions is that you give her Overcrush, then she gets a buff and Overcrush, and that's pretty neat.
Fair enough. What are the others? Are they good?
When Wasp is active, when an opponent uses an action die, deal the damage to that opponent.
Yeah. Okay.
People thought, people think like, oh, it'll be a counter to Yanti, but
no,
by the time they're starting to use the action dice, you probably already lost at that point.
Yeah, quite.
And then Amplify, which is a brand new keyword, spin her up a level.
Is Amplify a good keyword? I
like it as a keyword, but I don't think that by itself it's any good.
I like the actual word. I think
Amplify, yeah. I think like in a vacuum like this, it's definitely the weakest of her cards. I mean, it is the cheapest too. But yeah, okay. I can see if Amplify gets paired up with something else, like something that has a burst ability at level 3 or something with Awaken, I can see it'd be really interesting, but that would be a little bit overpowered too.
Okay. Does anything have a burst ability at level 3?
Not recently, but it could happen.
Captain America did.
Okay. And that's it. That's all of the characters. We don't have pictures of the actions yet, but they have all been added to the team builder on the Dice Coalition.
Well done, Dice Coalition.
Good job. Seriously. Very fast work this time.
Let's skip through bloody big entrance.
Yeah. If you haven't seen big entrance before, it's the 3rd time they've printed it. Check it out.
It's got impulse keyword, which is nice.
Yeah, it's true. Confront the Mighty is pretty interesting. It's like the Arch Nemesis action, which people don't use very often, but it's kind of interesting.
Target character die you control, this is for radio listeners, target character die you control has attack equal to defense of target opposing character die until end of turn. Those 2 character dice deal damage to each other equal to their attack, which I think means you can select one of their hard-to-shift blob-type characters and remove it in a very targeted way.
Yeah.
Pretty good. For 2 cost. That's
totally, decent. Yeah. For a 2-cost action, that's awesome, because the old Arch Nemesis was 4. And you didn't get any buff or anything. So
it did have a global
way better. It did have a good global on it. But like, you could take one of your sidekicks, give it 8 attack, right? Have it deal its damage to Blob and KO Blob, and then your sidekick is KO'd, and that's all that happens. Yeah, it's awesome.
Zach has skipped over Blam Blam Blam, which is an awesome name, and I think it's got Punisher on it.
Yeah.
Because, as he pointed out, crowd fighting seems to be strictly better. Zach, you can explain that.
Well, characters choose an active character die, so that means yours or your opponent's deal damage equal to that character die's level to all opposing character dice. And it specifically does it only to your opposing character, which is awesome. So that's 1, 2, or 3 damage to all opposing characters. That's a breath weapon for a 4-cost action.
That's pretty good. Whereas Blam 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 was the lowest defense, and it's done to all characters. So if they have a psychic,
no, it's all active opposing character dice too. But
all right. Okay.
But it's just the lowest defense value. So you're probably going to deal 1 damage to everything with this every time. With crowd fighting, you can field a level 3 character and then deal 3 damage to everything instead.
Yeah. Okay.
And the same cost. So.
Yep. I want you, but Blam 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 is a better name.
I will agree that it is a better name.
I Want You as a reprint of You've Been Chosen from War of Light, I think.
Yep.
It's otherwise, I don't know. Is that going to see play? At the beginning of your opponent's turn.
Back in War of Light.
No, let's skip it. Skip it. Ray Shields, on the other hand, is Horn of the Unicorn. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
That's a good card. That's just I mean, it's a bit conditional on the overcrush, but
Yeah.
it's
You
got a
don't
buff
always
on
get
it.
overcrush with it, but you get 2 characters +1/+1. It's only a 3 cost, which is pretty good. It has a pump global on it as well. A bit
Overcrush
thematically missing that it's about
over,
shields, but you're giving
yeah.
attack.
That didn't really make sense. Yeah, the overcrush is on the 2 burst phases, which is going to make that like inherently unreliable. But it does have a pay bolt target character that gets +1 attack global, which is always welcome.
Well, the only cheaper way to give overcrush is proton cannon, which has the downside that if it's not a 5th character, you have to KO it. So
yeah, that's all right. Squad goals, nah.
Yeah, draw and roll a die for each different energy type when your active character dice. I mean, if you sort of generally have about 2 characters in the field, then you're drawing and rolling 2 dice, which means why not just spend 1 less and buy investigation?
I mean, okay, you could get a bunch of dice with spot ramp, couldn't you?
Yeah,
just
yeah.
for fun, but I don't know. Yeah, maybe there's something in it. Take Cover is seeing its 3rd reprint,
yeah.
or rather 2nd reprint, 3rd printing,
Yeah.
and I found a use for it on an Odin Thor team. There was an Odin in AOU which said that none of your Thor with a defense of less than Odin can be blocked or something. That was really quite good. But outside of that, no.
Yeah.
Global's good. Global's okay.
Yeah.
But it's present elsewhere, I think.
Yeah.
Where is that? Where is that global? There's a quiz question. Samantha Wilson. No,
I think that
prevent
prevents a damage.
damage.
Isn't there a Groot that has +1 defense?
I don't know. Anyway, moving on. Under surveillance is
Stealth Ops.
Stealth Ops, right? Not
I like Stealth Ops.
Yeah.
So there's a Dimension Door is a 4 cost that makes them unblockable. This is a 3 cost that makes them unblockable, but they only get their level 1 attack. But the reason I like it is if you're going to get something that's going to get a bunch of buffs anyway, like Fix It or that Wasp or something, then the actual printed attack might not be that much different between level 3 and level 1. So you might as well get, like that Wasp that we talked about that gets +1/+1 every takes an action. The difference between its level 1 and level 3 attack is 2 to 3, so to make it level 1 and unblockable.
Yeah, but it seems fair that they make you work for the unblockable. You know, you can only have the unblockable if it's level 1. That's kind of a decent trade-off for 3, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
And Wormhole is a good name, again. Continuous. Whenever you could use a global ability, you may send this die to your use pile. If you do, return all dice controlled by a player other than their owner to their owner's field zone and return all dice, blah, 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 blah. So it's anti-collector and inset anti-Loki, you said. One of the Lokis.
One of the Lokis allows you to swap characters with your opponent. There's like a rare prismatic spray that does that. I don't know. It almost seems like they're hinting it's like something's coming, right? Because there's like, I mean, I can think of 3 potential ways that this might be useful, but maybe in the future there'll be more.
Okay. All right. So there it is. That's everything. Right. So overall impressions, Zach? What do you reckon?
Well, I think both of us are kind of, you probably can tell from the tone that as far as the competitive scene goes, there's probably not a ton of stuff here that we're going to want to use, in the next national tournament. But it's definitely some interesting stuff, you could work together with inset. It might be fun to do the draft pack generator that Truby built, and you combine this with the team packs or even some other Marvel sets.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been a bit negative. I feel a bit bad now, but from a sort of experienced player's point of view, I don't know if there's anything hugely earth-shattering. There's a handful of globals. You've got your Thousand Island, which that's what I'm going to use from now on. Your Taunt, and the Avengers affiliation is always fun to have an affiliation global, and a handful of characters. You might get some aggressive Avengers going on. You mentioned lots of cards like that Black Widow and the Avengers Identity card that give buffs, so that could be some nice affiliated aggro going on. But nothing to really excite me. However, it's probably really honestly not directed primarily at us, is it? And in isolation, for people who have not got like however many sets there are to compare it against, maybe it's all right. There's some Avengers fun to be had, probably. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I think there's definitely, there's some expensive characters, but then they've been careful to include things like big entrants in the basic actions so that you can possibly, ramp up and buy them. They've got a couple different ways of possibly clearing out walls here with some of these basic actions. There's a couple different ways to do direct damage, although not with the basic actions, so you don't kind of fall on as a crutch. I mean, I think if you were a brand new player and you got this, I don't know about necessarily making super competitive 8-card teams to play against each other with just what's in here, but certainly for your first couple games with some 4-card teams, you could play Avengers versus villains. You could make a couple of interesting combos up.
Yeah, there's a slight issue with the dice, not from a well, yeah, obviously from a collector's point of view, but I'm not at all bothered about that. I'm quite okay with 3 dice for all of these characters, but maybe if you have to build 2 teams out of it, you might start to struggle a bit. But yeah. I think for established players, maybe it is somewhat underwhelming, but for new players, maybe it's quite all right actually. Good thing.
Yeah, and possibly in combined with the team packs that will be on the shelf right next to it, we'll have to see what you could come up with all 3 of those things together. So
on balance, a bit mixed, but maybe not a bad thing for starter players.
It's certainly not the end of the game, right?
Quite exactly.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments,
Yes.
whether you agree or whether you think we missed one of your very favorite cards.
Absolutely. Take care. Bye-bye.